Because high-potency THC is as damaging a substance as I can name for the psychological condition of people who are treated. Could you take a second to like sit on that sentence? We treat some heavy shit. Like we treat the people shooting massive amounts of fentanyl, and it's not doing the same stuff to their psychiatric condition as its high-potency THCs. It's really, really difficult. The mental health side of this thing, the inability to separate them, is, I think right now I wasn't completely sure, like, I was like this close to not being able to come, and I'll tell you a funny story about coming. I am so grateful that so many of us are sharing and standing up and proudly saying that we're on recovery. That we don't find it necessary to alter our moods with drugs and alcohol anymore. I'm one of those crew. It was actually here in the district. It was June 15th, 1996. And it's been a minute. And it wasn't until 13 years ago that I started addressing my own mental health issues. Because there's just some stuff that a sponsor's not qualified in. And they're real, and they're big, and they're big lately. And it's just, it's a little more challenging to stand here and talk today than it is most days. Thanks, Lord. High-potency THC is not just making mental health disorders worse inside the population, it's causal. There's no, like, what Wyoming and my dear friend Charles was part of this, ran a campaign years ago called There's No Debate. There's just some stuff we can't argue. Like, you can argue the shape of shoe my black is, but you can't argue whether or not I'm wearing shoes. It's causal. And it absolutely is a matter of time until the masses recognize this. What we know about treating THC disorder is really simplistic. If you don't have a copy of this book, it's called THC in Medicine, an Evidence-Based Approach. Dr. Ken Finn, who a lot of you know of Colorado Springs, put it together. And he tapped Dr. Letitia Bader and I to write the section on treatment and recovery. So we think it's probably one of the best published best practices on treatment and recovery around THC use disorder. And I'm going to summarize like a lot of work and a lot of writing in 3 things. We know it's very, very real. And it's not at all easy to treat. The realness of it, you'd be shocked how often we get pushed back on that. Okay, so he's just addicted to weed, nothing else. Yeah, it's beautiful. There is never, ever, ever a just before the word addiction. Ever. I don't care what it is, man. People who say that don't understand what it is. Because addiction is, fill in the blank. Addiction destroys communities. It guts families from the inside. It separates us from one another. It separates us from higher power. It isolates and it kills. Addiction, if somebody has a substance use disorder or otherwise diagnosable addiction to a thing, you never get to say just before it. And people say, well, it's just addiction to weed, at least he's not out there shooting dope. Man, you don't understand what addiction is. Because addiction takes a person from community to isolation. And from isolation to death. There's never a just. It is very serious. And when I hear people kind of make light of it, boy, I'll tell you. There's a couple of things. I'm a pretty laid back guy. I don't get angry much at all, but that's one that will get me a little bit like you want to downplay the significance of somebody's substance use disorder around a specific substance, that ignorance can kill. The other thing that we know is that medical detox this is exceptionally challenging. We don't have any pharmacologic assistance right now, so we're sort of on our own. And the detox is very, very real. We've learned a lot about it, and that's been a kind of focus of mine lately. If you don't have really sound medical and psychiatric assistance inside of the program that's treating somebody, good luck, because you're not going to treat the withdrawal and the psychiatric conditions associated with behavioral interventions. We need really, really good providers and prescribers to be a part of this scenario. And unfortunately, not a lot of them are aware of how significant this is. We're trying to educate them, but not everybody is. The last thing I'll share with you before I'm going to kind of pivot here a little bit is that the data will tell us, in my own practical experience will hash out, that THC is the most difficult substance to stay sober from. Some interesting stuff. You can extrapolate a ton out of several studies that say these things. Well, it's not. In fact, it's in all likelihood one of the easier ones to stop use for like a day or two. You have a better 24 to 48 hour ability to just kind of knock it off than you do with other substances, but it's got the lowest rates of maintained sobriety of any of the other substances that we mentioned. That's a big deal. I think a lot of that, who said it yesterday? Somebody said that social detox side of things. I've actually written a lot about this lately, and I think it's very real, but this is a problem. Other than that, man, treating substance use disorders, we try and overcomplicate it. We end up with, we end up treating people who all have the same disease in individual and specific ways and relying just on one thing and not on the other. Don't separate out cannabis use disorder from substance use disorder in the same way you don't want to separate out alcohol use disorder from anything else. Like, treat substance use disorder, period. But there are idiosyncrasies to treat a THC patient, and plenty of them are written about. And that book that I mentioned, I did my best. I published another book this year, last year or something, which I'm never doing again. And I swear at this time, Kevin. And I wrote extensively about it. The only reason I'm doing it is somewhat to try and, so Kevin gets off my ass, because we're all, come on. It's not going to be too long before everybody recognizes what the rest of this room does. And I want to use the rest of my time to talk about how we're going to shift into that, and the importance of how we're going to shift into that. You got to get a little active with me. I know, listen to me, I'm one of these people, when somebody's like, stand up, raise your hand. I'm like, yeah, okay. It's like 8 in the morning. How many of you know that there was a pretty significant warning from the Surgeon General about tobacco use? Come on. Who wants to tell me when? It's a bunch of smart people in this room. Jag, you're not allowed.
65. The 80s.
Solid 64. Much higher than average intelligence in this room. You're all wrong. No, 1929. The first Surgeon General's report on the harms of tobacco use was written in 1929. Fellow Herbert S. Cummings. And Herbert wrote us a whole mess of stuff about how much tobacco was messing things up and how we needed to stay away from it. It wasn't until 1964 that people started to care. Now, the 1964 Surgeon General's report had a massive effect on American behavior. We shifted the way we thought about tobacco. I wrote a fun story about a friend in my book, A Friend's Dad, and how it affected him. 35 years between when we had enough knowledge that the leading doc in the country stood up and was like, time out, people, you all should stop and think about this. 35 years before the next report when this country paid any attention to it. First Surgeon General's report on THC, Kevin, you can't answer. Yeah, 2019. If we wait another 35 years, this is the extent of my ability to do math. It's going to be 2054. If you happen to pick up the book that I wrote and you read these grueling chapters on the environmental consequences that I wrote, no, I got something else to do math. I can barely do this kind of addition and subtraction. If we want to wait another 35 years for this to happen, all right. Hey man, this is a free-ish country where we sort of get to decide what we want to do. And if that's the direction that we want to take it, then we certainly can. We can cede to big THC in the same way that we ceded to big tobacco for those 35 years, and we can kind of sit passively by and not speak up a little bit. And, come on, realistically, what's the worst that's going to happen? A little collateral damage? Mark, what was the name of your collateral damage? What's your son's name?
Jesse.
What's your collateral damage?
Randy.
Laura, you have some experience with collateral damage? Go ahead and wait 35 years. Watch that numbers, man. And to the world, to the people out there who are like, it's just weed, let's keep putting faces on that collateral damage, because I'll be damned if you can turn away from a face. 35 more years of what's happening, what I see every single day, can't happen. I dig it, man. Kevin said yesterday they get these emails weekly. It's Sam. There is not one day that goes by, not a day, that I don't see this. And 4 out of 5 days, I'm getting an email or a phone call from somebody who read something I did or saw something that I was on some video thing or whatever, telling me about their kids. Hey man, you want to figure out getting me to come to your state to speak? Like, okay, I'll call you back inside of about 6 months. Actually, I probably won't call you back. Somebody else will. And I'm going to be super non-committal and not really even, maybe you'll show up when it's time, because that ain't not bad. But you got a kid who's got a problem, I'm on the phone with you like that. And every single week, 4 or 5 times. That collateral damage it can't be something we let sit out there for another 35 years. The good news is that we've got solutions to it. Man, it was, the reason why people don't use tobacco anymore as much is because we finally understood the direct link between tobacco and cancer. Tobacco use and cancer. And a myriad of other things. But I'm telling you, and a bunch of us have been yelling about this for a couple of years now, it is a short amount of time until the masses recognize that tobacco is the cancer, what THC is the psychosis. You're not going to be able to argue much longer, man. Like, you can't argue right now. Argue right now, you gotta blatantly turn your back on the facts. And you gotta have an agenda, I think, too. So, we've got the truth on our side, and the reality is the truth is a heck of a lot easier to tell than lies. It takes them more money and more effort to go out there and tell us that this is a benign thing that's saving lives all over the place and helping people. We can fix that. We just gotta get really vocal about it. We gotta stay really vocal about it. I've tried to stop speaking. Stuff's been challenging for me. And I just can't keep getting on planes. Like, I love it, but good God. From 2012, I got into this thing in 2012. And it's where I met Kevin, actually, in Colorado. And for the last whatever many years, this has been 15, I guess. We've gotten old too. Looking at the pictures of, well, most of you haven't, but looking at these pictures, here's the standout for me, is that 15 years ago, there weren't a lot of us. There's a handful. And then we started to get other warriors. Warriors like Luke. Gangster man. People who are willing to stand up and say no. I wasn't gonna come at all, period. I got the dates and I looked at my calendar and I was like, oh, well, this shit, I can make it. And so I texted Kevin and Luke at the same time. Sorry, you guys know you're gonna get a little profanity with me. I'm trying not to do that. I was like, yo, I can be there. I'll see you guys in February. I can't wait. And I got like a, emoji back. And then like the next day, I saw a mass email hit my inbox and it was like, speaking at the SAM Summit. And I was like, damn it, you guys, and I didn't say nothing about that. And the reason why I'm not doing it much anymore is because I'm not alone. I don't have to. Because we got this army. SAM versus big THC isn't David versus Goliath. I hear that all the time, people say that. And I think that's just funny. I think the ratios are totally wrong. Like, again, I didn't try and do the math, I maybe started a little, but if you look at what SAM spends and what big THC spends, this is like a mouse versus Godzilla. It's a really badass mouse. And y'all read Narnia or Rinpoche? SAM has done more to damage than Godzilla than absolutely anything else that's taking place inside of this country. And we gotta stand behind it. And you have to keep fighting personally. But not everybody can or should get up and speak. I've seen plenty of people who I'm like, yeah, maybe we should try writing. Or but we got some powerful speakers and powerful group of people around here. Those of you who can, you gotta keep fighting because boy, it's awesome not to be alone, to feel alone. We never were. We always had some great allies. But we gotta fight. And if you can fight personally, if you can do this, if you can do what Boris doing, if you can do what Carlton's doing, if you can do what Mark's doing, if you can get out front and do it, man, because the world deserves it. And we gotta shorten that window. The harder we fight, the shorter that window is. I gotta keep stuff simple. And that's the way I think about it. The harder I fight, the shorter that window is. Maybe I can cut a year or two off of it. Annie and Diane, and you guys killing it in Colorado, and you guys are shaving years off at 35. The harder we fight, the shorter that window is. If fighting is not your thing, if you can't get out, if you can't do this, if you can't write, if you can't do whatever it is, you gotta get behind and back up the people who are. Because the fight's simple. This is a fight for the future of our nation. We're the ones who get high, who go abroad. We're really, really good at getting high and getting drunk. That's America. That's not the America that I want my grandkids or Carlton's grandkids to grow up in. I'd like to see a different perception of who we are in the world. We have to fight for our collective futures. We gotta fight for our kids, and we gotta fight for our families. That's an easy one, right? I think for a lot of us, it is. But for those of you who still are looking for a little motivation, it's simple. You gotta fight for the truth. History's gonna remember this thing. And they're gonna remember those who sat on the right side and who sat on the wrong side. And we're still on the right side of it. We're not gonna be able to argue that a little bit down the road. So you gotta fight for the truth. And the harder we do it, the better the chances are that we shorten those 35 years. I'm going to end with this. Is my time good? I'm good to end, or should I keep running my mouth? Okay, good. Listen, I did last minute, I threw like 7 or 8 copies of my new book in my bag, so if anybody needs them, I got one. It's not that, I like it more than the first one, but it's still not, I'm no writer, but I hope there's some important information in it. It's got a really cool cover. Here's the last thing I want to challenge you with. If you can't get out there fighting, you got to sit in the corner and you got to back up the people who can fight and who are fighting. A bunch of y'all can be cornermen. Like you can, I wasn't put up to this, Kev, sorry, nobody, I didn't even tell you I was doing this. Like, if you can't do it yourself, or if you want to help a little bit more, you back up that badass little mouse. Stand behind Sam. The work that they're doing, I've been on the board since the onset of it. It's incredible the work that they're doing. Before we all came here, John, where you at, John? Everybody see John in the back? Who raises the money for Sam? He sent something out to, yes. He sent something out to the board. And he was like, look, can y'all pony up a couple bucks to help offset the cost of this? And everybody kind of chipped in a little bit. Forget the details of it, because all of the details are a little bit different. Since I'm doing a little less on the front end and maybe a little more on the back end, publicly and right now, so I can't get away from it, I'd like to double what I committed before I came out here, and I'll pay that other part of it. And I want to throw it out there to you guys too. Come on, man. If you haven't, get in on it, because these guys are, they're getting the job done. And here's something too, because I'm on the board, I know what they all get paid. And I feel really good about donating to the organization, because they're doing this out of love, not out of greed. Fight in any way you possibly can. Fight for the future of this country, fight for your families, fight to stop the collateral damage, fight for the truth.